Monica smiled, rushing out the room and coming back quietly with her purse. Monica smiled as she tossed her purse to him. Edward picked up the bag, taking out 2 ounces of cannabis, throwing one. It's just like sometimes you just don't fucking know what you write. It's like you're just going, and it makes sense if you read it like 20 times, but you don't have to do that. I would have picked up the bag. Okay, first off, it was not Edward picked up the bag. There you go. That's how you edit, people. Let's reread the edit. Let's reread the edit now. Monica smiled, rushing out the room, then coming back quickly with her purse. She already smiled. So this is when you use commas instead of using sentences. Monica smiled, rushing out the room, then coming back with her purse, taking out 2 ounces of cannabis, throwing one to Edward before setting the other aside. I got 2 for $300 when I was hanging out with Cassidy and Bianca. Cassidy works for a dispensary, so she has a hookup. She bought a bunch for a little, so I guess you can sell one and we can smoke the other. Edward chuckled, remembering the early days of their relationship when they first met. He hadn't sold drugs since they got serious. After he lost his job, drug money held him over until he finished his real estate course. Then he went from selling ounces to selling houses to transform his life. Regardless, he could still earn enough to get his money back from Monica to pay back for his upholstery. I'm sorry for doubting you. I didn't spend it all foolishly. I listened to you, baby. Monica hugs him, not wanting to let him go. I understand, Monica, and I apologize for getting so angry. And I'm sorry for having sex with Rochelle and lying about it. Edward held his head in shame. Did you enjoy it? Edward sighed, not wanting to answer honestly. So, yes. We had sex a few times today because it felt so good, he confessed. I could taste your dick when I was eating her pussy. I could tell you two been busy. She started to come inside her. Monica kissed his neck. What are you doing? At first I was angry, but he tasted so good inside of her I couldn't help but get horny thinking about the two of you. Monica teased, reaching around his waist, gripping his cock in her hand. Yeah, there's a lot of fucking in this. Whoa. Relax, you're tickling me. Edward chuckles as Monica kisses down his neck. Better than chopping off your dick, right? Monica teased, giving him a bit of space as he gathered his thoughts. I'm sorry about Rochelle. It happened out of nowhere. I'm even more miserable. I've been working with Angela this time. I've never let her out anything. I've been entirely platonic. Rochelle is just hot. Like, you're both gorgeous. I don't find her more attractive than you, but I can't resist myself either. I think the feeling is mutual between us. I don't think I could have survived without telling you the truth. How do you feel about Rochelle? He blushed, rubbing his neck. Well, she's amazing when she get past her work ethic. She was like a perfect housewife. He looked away, worried about what Monica was going to say. I can see that, but there's more to a wife than staying at home. Monica tried to convince him, but his face said his words didn't move him. Critical fail. She rolled a 1 critical fail. If you say so. She wasn't the one drunk and dancing on the bar. She was home cooking my dinner. Maybe listen to what I'm telling you. You can learn a bit from your friend. Monica gritted her teeth. Pissed off, the very woman he had been complaining about the past month was now the golden role model because she got a little job and could cook before he talked about how they needed her to move out. Now they were having sex and Rochelle was so fucking great. Well, it says freaking great, but like, you know, I could tell what I meant to say at the time, but I was tired of using the F word. Monica quieted down, wanting to keep the peace, but felt pissed off beyond belief at the prospect of avoiding anything from Rochelle. Oh, I'm only laughing because I know what happens next. I know what's about to happen, and I can't even like fucking give it away to you. Oh my god, you guys are not ready for what's about to happen. You guys aren't ready. You don't think Rochelle has anything to learn from me? I mean, about other things outside of romance. Edward shrugged. You think she's a better girlfriend than me? She called herself my girlfriend? Rochelle's... Edward smug, blushing at the idea of dating Rochelle. Holy shit. This is so fucked up. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is a lot darker than what's happening. Like, what's happening is really dark, but, like... It's a really fucked up situation. I can't help but laugh at it to kind of, like, avoid just being so dour and so sad. It's like, it's a really fucked up situation. I feel like Kevin Hart when he's like, damn! Like, I'm not trying to laugh at it, but, like, I have no choice but to laugh, like, right now. I'm trying to serious. Alright. We're doing this. This is happening. And we're doing it. We're here. We're in the moment. We're doing it. It's gonna be good. Let's go. No, she didn't. She denied it even happened. Monica was beginning to get frustrated all over again. Sorry, you're perfect, you're great, and blah blah. Edward rolled his eyes, standing up to leave the room. Monica swallowed her pride, knowing before Rochelle moved in, they argued continuously. She never found what he was complaining about too important. She liked to admit Rochelle did naturally everything he asked for, and she put up a fight against. Cooking, cleaning, and being submissive were the last things on Monica's mind. Even though Edward earned twice the amount she did, she felt like she needed to get her point across. He called it arguing for no reason and would usually leave her alone as he did now. But for Monica felt like him walking away was a victory, meaning he was too prideful to admit that she was right. She didn't feel very right anymore. She had been cheated on and found out her boyfriend had been proposed to by his boss all on the same day. He had told her the relationship was falling apart, but she felt he was exaggerating. That's how a lot of you chicks get in fucked up situations. Y'all do exactly that. Y'all be in a fucked up situation. It's not that bad. Nah, look. It don't gotta be that bad. It don't gotta be terrible, but you gotta at least admit what the fuck is going on and fix what the hell is going on. You can't just be sitting there like, my leg's fucking bleeding, it's not that bad. My bone is broken and it's sticking out of my shin, but it's not that bad. You don't want to be living like that. Alright, let's focus. Serious. The pain in her heart let her know he was downplaying the situation. All in all, he had been patient and up until today, faithful. Monica wanted to save her relationship, but the prospect of having her man back to herself was impossible the longer Rochelle felt like living with him. She needed Rochelle to move on and find her boyfriend. Instead, Rochelle was trying to take hers. Monica dressed up quickly, coming outside to find Rochelle comfortably cuddled up with Edward as they kissed. The two ignored the television and Monica as they moaned in each other's arms. Rochelle began to mount him as they began, as if they had been having sex. Monica coughed. Hey, it's Mo. Rochelle giggled, looking over her shoulder as Edward let go. Edward avoided eye contact with Mo as if she was the one. She were the one intruding. Damn! She took her whole man. Yo, she took her whole man. Yeah, don't ever let anybody move in with you. I don't give a fuck. Like, no one has ever moved in with me. You can take that shit somewhere. You can call me whatever the fuck you need to call me. I don't give a fuck. You're not moving in with me. You can show up at my fucking doorstep. I'm gonna talk to you outside. Like, you're gonna fucking go somewhere. No. She took her whole dude. Edward avoided eye contact with Mo as if she were the one that was intruding. Monica swallowed as the only person happy to see her was the same woman she felt resentment toward. I need to do too much better if that's the case. Despite having sex in the shower after hearing from Edward, Monica felt angrier that she had been in the morning. Hey, Monica says flatly, sitting between the two, only for Rochelle to attempt reaching under Monica's shirt. Monica jerked away, glaring at Rochelle as if she had lost her mind. What? You were just touching all over me. He wants to date you instead of me, Monica wailed as tears filled her eyes. I didn't say that, Edward snapped. Monica fell into Rochelle's arms crying. She finally felt the weight from a relationship on her shoulders. Rochelle held Monica's head, brushing her hair and making soothing hushes as she clung to Monica. I was only saying you two can learn a lot from each other. You're like two missing pieces, like opposites. Rochelle's everything you don't, and vice versa. I think you two complete the other one. I don't have a preference. That's even worse. Honestly, now that you have a job, Rochelle, I was going to move out and let you two keep the apartment. A week earlier, Rochelle would have been thrilled to hear he was leaving, after facing the deep lust she felt for him. The idea was like being smacked in the face. Rochelle was quiet as the frown consumed her face. Rochelle clutched him tighter, surprising Monica with her compassion for a man she tried so hard to break her up with. But she felt she saw why. If I can't have him, no one can. Monica talked me out of it somewhat. I still have to move, but maybe I'll have to drop everything to move. Why are you moving? Rochelle whined, irritating Monica to no end, though she could hardly help herself. Well, a lot of reasons, but to be genuine, real estate in this area is overpriced for no good reason other than getting away from riffraff and the large bodies of water people clamber over. It doesn't matter about the homeless. People who use the residents are drifting in. I want to get to an area before it's gentrified. So maybe I can ensure a few families have homes. If I do good my first year solo, maybe help a few hundred families. You quitting the job with Angela? Well, I was going to leave to marry you, but you don't seem ready. Edward sighed. We're only in our 20s, Ed. Well then, you have more time to find another partner. If I'm not going to be married, I don't have to argue with you or have you pop up in my jobs. At this point, I have to leave. The couple called back saying how unprofessional and deplorable I had been dealing with them, and how disrespectful it was I rushed them off. I didn't lose my job, but I might as well have after today. I told you not to go down there, Rochelle sighed, losing her ride to work every day. So you don't have a job? I don't have an office anymore. I was told to take a vacation to sort out my home life. Edward's eyes teared up with frustration. Oh, don't cry, Eddie. Rochelle hugs him tightly. Monica felt her body burning with regret as she looked at her best friend consoling her boyfriend. It seemed natural for Rochelle as she laid her chin on his shoulder and whispered sweet nothings in his ear. Edward's tears slowed, but he excused himself as he tried to gather his breath and thoughts. Monica sat quietly, trying to pull herself together mentally, wondering why she couldn't have waited for a moment like now to ask them. She half presumed they were already keeping the secret from her as she tried to play it off. Now her anger was only exceeded by the immense guilt built up in her gut. Are you okay, Monica? I didn't mean to disrespect your house. I feel like I fucked up everything. Rochelle's shoulders fell as she tried to regain her composure. I did it to myself by even fucking around with you. Oh, this is Edward. I was gonna say, like, that's some cold-hearted shit for, like, Monica to say, but no, it was Edward. That makes it a little bit more, like, he's the honest guy for that. I did it to myself by even fucking around with you. It serves me right to suffer. I would have rejoined him holding a bottle of wine in his hands, ripping out the cork with his teeth, then drinking from the bottle. Carla Rossi, the big jug, huh? You must feel sad. Monica held her chest inching closer to him. Their eyes met for a moment, departed as neither knew what to say. Edward felt like he ruined his life with his decisions. Monica felt no different from how she took her relationship for granted up until the day. It seemed fixable. They both looked at Rochelle, wanting to feel resentment, but their love had grown too deep for different reasons. Edward blamed himself. Monica didn't know what to do and think. What do you think, Ro? Monica asked. Me? Rochelle was shocked. Well, I guess you're part of this now. Edward agreed. I guess I'm super sorry for my part in all this, and I didn't even know Edward liked me or found me attractive. I thought you're beautiful, but I don't give a fuck about shit like that. Excuse my language, but I couldn't care less about how someone looks as long as they have character and merit. However, you are gorgeous. I've been having issues from work and wanted to leave for a while. With you showing up, I felt forced to stay longer. that I wanted or even felt comfortable doing. Well, quit. Rochelle shrugged. You can't just quit, Rochelle. Well, then put your 1 month notice, then quit. And if you're going to put in your notice, don't run away from your office. Stand your ground. You don't have at-home issues. Monica loves you to death. Other than that, I think you can find some areas here that you can afford to do some wholesaling. You already have a real estate background and want to go solo. I mean, I would rather know I was sleeping with some guy who had his own real estate company than feeling like he was miserable at his job. Rochelle assured him. She plans to keep fucking. See, the psychology there is that she plans to keep having sex with him. Shanna, like, so what women do. Women have a vision for you, and they're constantly trying to shove you inside of this vision. And it's like you got day by day. You got day by day. You got to get through the first day before you can get to the 5-year mark. How do I fix my relationship? Let's jump back in it. How do I fix my relationship? This is the best sex I've ever had, and your apartment is literal heaven. Girl, you need to learn how to enjoy what you have instead of what you don't. You're not a lesbian, so I suggest you start having sex with your boyfriend. I'm not going to say you're lucky it was me he was fucking, because today I thought I would never speak to you again, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it wasn't eventually another woman. I felt like Eddie was waiting for some pussy for a while, and he took it the first chance he got. I'm not complaining, but I wouldn't have wanted to lose my friendship over this morning. This afternoon, if you would have walked in on us, we were just going to have to fight. She'll began laughing, remembering how crazy her sex with Edward had been today. You're right. I mean, Ed should learn to just keep his dick in his pants. My dick was in my pants. You brought this sexy chick in here, Monica. I can't pretend to be vegan. At the end of the day, I still like steak. You didn't want to be celibate? Hell no, I was respecting you because I thought it was the right thing to do, but damn, you're hot, Monica. Beautiful as hell with an amazing body. I think I showed my self-control since I met you, but I've only been doing all this shit to eventually have sex with you. Maybe put a baby in you and start a family. That's good. Monica muttered, looking away from Monica. That's her reality. she like legit has this dude's nut inside of her right now. I didn't know you felt so strongly. I felt like you two were trying to fucking cuck me. Plus, you're always hanging out with those 2 lesbian chicks. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I guess I didn't mind sex because I was already focused so much on my last breakup. But damn, I don't know, I miss sex so much. You never had it. You didn't know you were missing out on, babe. I had a hunger I couldn't satisfy here. Well, you can now. I loved having sex with you. Especially if it costs you your job with that bitch Angela. Fuck her. I don't care to pay the rent myself as long as you're not around her ever again, Monica exclaims. Angela, I have never done anything. Who the hell is Angela, and did you use a condom because you were raw dogging me, bro? Rochelle hugged herself, wondering if she got herself into a more complicated situation. His boss proposed to him. Bro, that's so freaking awkward. And it was a woman proposing to you? Edward rubbed the bridge of his lip. Look, you didn't go through it, and I don't want to fucking remember it. We took a business trip somewhere where you could get married extremely easily. She had a ring ready and told me her plan. I told her I already have a girlfriend. Then my work life became a living hell on earth. You can sue for sexual harassment, can't you? She never texted me sexually. I'm pretty sure torture at work because you declined a wedding proposal was the definition of quid pro quo. Like, Rochelle's smart. Rochelle rubbed her chin. She's not like... It's just awkward working with someone who wants to make you happy while living with someone who wants you to make them happy. It's just hard. Alright, she's a great partner and boss. She's taught me a lot. I don't resent her. You resent me. Monica grinds her teeth. What was going on before I moved in? Rochelle asked. We fought all the time, and he worked all the time. To get away from me, I'm finding out. It's because you're damn expensive and everyone needs your money for things you want. Well, what do you mean by that? Rochelle wondered. Things like her hair, nails, getting shopping, makeup. I can't complain about all those things. I couldn't complain about any of those things. She keeps claiming she's got it from me. It's not going... I'm going to go dreadlocks this show. I'm going to go dreadlocks this show. It's all bullshit. BT dub Edward's black the whole way through. The whole time Edward's black. Edward threw his hands up. You don't want your woman to look good, Monica rolls her eyes. I want her to treat me properly, Edward rebuttals fiercely as if he had reached his breaking point. Rochelle held out a blunt to Edward, urging him to take a hit and relax with her eyes alone. Edward relented, leaning back on the couch, sparking at the blood. He took a long draw, exhaling through his mouth, then inhaling the smoke through his nose, holding it as he meditated on his following words. As he released the smoke, he shook his head, tired of talking and ready for action. He held the blunt out to Monica, tossing the ball in her court. Monica held up her hand for a second, rejecting it until she saw him not hesitate to pass it back to Rochelle, as though he predicted Monica's reaction. Edward let out an exasperated sigh, standing at the head back for the bedroom. Monica, you wanted to smoke earlier. What's wrong now? Well, finding out my boyfriend hates me. I don't hate you. I thought you hated me. I love you. I love you too, but you're doing a terrible job at it. But we're doing a terrible job at it, Edward sighed, accepting Rochelle's hand as she pulled it back down. You two make a great couple. Rochelle notes as she extends the book to Monica. Monica was hesitant, but accepted it all the same. I feel the same looking at you two cuddling together. Monica rolled her eyes, taking a much-needed inhale before exhaling deeply. Rochelle noticed how she was laying up with Edward, his arms curling around her waist as Rochelle wore a shirt without a bra or panties. Rochelle blushed, knowing there was no longer any way to hide her relationship with Edward from Monica. Rochelle bit her lips, laying on her back and spreading her legs before Edward, wondering how he would react. Edward chuckled, lifting Rochelle's legs as he began to lap at her pussy. Monica covered her gaping mouth as she watched Edward mousily work at Rochelle's clitoris and labia in single strokes of his tongue. You gotta be masterful to do shit like that, for real, for real. Why do you see... Watch. Do you see how good he is at it? Rochelle moaned as she arched her back. Monica gulped as she watched Rochelle choking her screams, beginning to fall off the couch as her body tightened for a brief moment. Edward finally let her go, chuckling at his handiwork as Rochelle picked herself up from the floor. Monica was quiet as Edward reached for the blunt. Sorry, let me go to the bathroom first and wash my face. You two are down. We could probably make some cookies. Oh, good. I love cookies. What kind are you making? We're gonna make those cookies that make you feel like you're on the moon. Edward calls back as the bathroom doors were closed. Rochelle rolled her eyes before giggling. Look over to Monica. I knew what he meant, but I was asking what flavor. Do you want to help me grind this weed up? Rochelle down on her knees, grabbing one of the grinders in the drawer with the coffee table for pouring some weed inside. Rochelle looked up to watch Monica staring at her motionless as Rochelle carried along. Rochelle dumped the pile down before bumping more inside. She looked up to speak, but noticed the slight change of Monica's lips curled downward. Rochelle coughed lightly, being checked to see if Edward was coming back. But soon, before dropping the grinder and moving to the kitchen, Rochelle did her best to ignore Monica, gathering the baking slides, looking around for the kitchen for flour, sugar, baking soda, and scouring the place for chocolate chips and brown sugar. Rochelle smiled, gleaming with herself as she collected everything she needed. As she went to grab a few metal bowls, she spotted the butcher's block. She did the dishes, so there's no reason why a knife should be missing. Rochelle turned and jumped back quietly, narrowly avoiding Monica attempting to cut her with a butcher's knife. Rochelle swatted the blade out of Monica's hand with a metal blow, then she jumped onto Monica, holding her down. Get off of me! Get off! Monica screamed. Edward busted through the bathroom door, rushing to jump onto them, prying the two apart. He tossed Rochelle back as he clasped Monica, lifting her in his arms. Rochelle, what the hell are you doing to her? Edward roared. You tried to stab me! Rochelle screams out before Monica could speak. You lying bitch! You tried to stab me in the back, Rochelle pleaded. Edward, we have to kill her. We can't trust her in our house tonight. She tried to kill me, Monica continued, egging him on. Edward looked at Rochelle in horror. Edward, turn around. You need to move, Rochelle pleads. What? Edward fell quickly to his knees. He felt his stomach, looking up to Rochelle, feeling no wound, but he felt bleeding. The warm blood pouring down his back into his pants as Monica pulled pulled out the blade, walking over to Rochelle. Rochelle jumped onto it over the kitchen island, grabbing a chair to haul off Monica as they stood from across the kitchen and living room. "We have to call 911, Rochelle screams. "I'll call them after we all die. You two can fuck all you want in hell where you two little devils are going." Monica smiles as she steps over Edward's body, moving for Rochelle. Rochelle fainted as if she would swing the metal bar sword Monica's face, then threw the chair with all her force at Monica's legs. Monica fell over herself, grasping at her bleeding legs, crying out in pain as she lose sight of Rochelle. Rochelle was dragging Edward through the hallway with desperation painted on her face as she made eye contact with Monica. Monica began crawling like a Navy SEAL after the two until Rochelle drops Edward in the middle of the hallway. "Help me! Help me! Help me!" Rochelle shrills, banging on every single door in the hallway as quickly as possible. "You bitch!" Monica cries out, rolling herself back into the apartment, locking the door behind her. A commotion swarmed inside the hallway, giving Rochelle no chance to speak as everyone began calling for an ambulance, seeing their neighbor bleeding and struggling to breathe on the ground. Rochelle swore she saw Monica in the crowd but had no real idea with all the people. The police and ambulance arrived at breakneck speed, narrowly saving Edward's life. Rochelle sat by his side, dressed in spare sweatpants, wearing the female EMT's on hand. She gripped his hand tight, knowing he took the blow so she didn't have to endure it. The doctors reported it had been more than muscle mass in his. If it hadn't been more muscle mass in his back, the laceration would have been fatal. If it had been Rochelle, she would have likely died in the ambulance. The police stood guard outside the doors in the hospital as no one found Monica. The apartments had no traces of blood, no signs of struggle, and no trail of Monica. With Edward's name on the lease, they had no way of finding her. Just after surgery, Monica was left waiting. Rochelle was left waiting. Rochelle had been sitting patiently in the waiting room for any word about Edward's condition. It was unlikely to see Monica again, but who she did see shocked her. A slim-framed man with a bald head, wearing a black hoodie, approached Rochelle. He was holding a coffee cup out to her the way she liked, 5 creams and 7 sugars piping hot. "What are you doing here, Michael?" Rochelle clutched her arm and purse, nearly curling into a ball as he approached. "Well, I got a text saying that you were in the hospital. I knew you were visiting when I was asking about you. They thought I was crazy." "You are crazy, and security should come get you." "Well, I'm here for you. Don't that count for anything? I'm here to bring you home." Michael extends his arms for a hug. "I don't want to go anywhere with you, Michael. You kicked me out of your house. I'm not going to go back to being your punching bag or sex slave. Just leave me alone." Rochelle began screaming loud enough to attract a few people around her, though they all seemed reluctant to intervene. "I brought you a coffee." Michael took a seat next to her and handed her the cup of coffee. Rochelle was hesitant to accept it, but felt exhausted. There was no way she would be able to stay awake without some caffeine. Rochelle took a sigh, knowing if Michael was sober, he was usually tolerable, and he seemed coherent. She accepted the coffee, though it tasted slightly funny and familiar. Rochelle tried to set the cup down, but Michael placed a finger on the bottom, tilting it up. "May be a long night. You're going to want all of it, right?" Michael sneered as Rochelle's head fell over quietly. Michael noticed the nurse approaching, quickly raising her hood, attempting to move away. The nurse didn't want to... This is fucked. The nurse didn't want to wake after all she had been through, but didn't recognize the man. The way that Rochelle had slept unnatural and uncomfortable, as if she had simply fallen. "Where did you get this cup from?" "She's drinking some coffee." "I mean, I eat here every day for all my meals. How is she able to find this cup at the cafe 2 buildings away? She hasn't left this seat since her boyfriend went to surgery." "Well, you're the nurse. Do you know this woman?" "Nah. But I suggest you check on her if you want her to live." "Did you do this?" The nurse screams as she... Did you do this? The nurse screams as she checks Rochelle's pulse. Feeling its muted response, she turned her head, finding the hooded figure walking briskly down the hallway. "Security! He poisoned that woman!" An older woman screamed out, repeatedly waving her cane in the air wildly as Michael attempted to escape. 2 large security guards blocked off his exit, leaving the 40-year-old man to double on his heels, beginning to run the other way. One officer pursued the chase as the officer set up an alarm, locking the door in out the ICU, blocking Michael's escape, causing him to run full force into the magnetically locked door. Fuck! Michael belted out, clutching his shoulder, then wincing as the back of his head smacked against the ground. The guards handcuffed him and carried him off. Wait! Wait! The nurse sprinted up. We apprehended the suspect. Time to take him into questioning, one of the guards states, tugging Michael along. Wait! What poison did he use? What poison is it? The nurse pleaded. Mike smiled. Her favorite. What? The nurse tightened her fist, slapping him across the face. Hey. Michael jerks against his handcuffs. The guard takes turns punching Michael until he was flat against the ground. He crests his feet into the cement as the nurse kneels into his level to ask him the question again. What poison did you use? She demands. All right. I'll tell you the truth, boys. I used my favorite, not hers. Michael chuckled as they continued to beat him. The nurse felt around his pockets, feeling a vial in his pockets, then rushing to toxicology. As the other nurses and doctors rushed Rochelle to the ICU. It was difficult to rationalize how a man could poison a girl. She was far more disturbed as to how he had even found her alone in the hospital. Someone must have told him, but whom? Edward was getting out of surgery. He opened his eyes, expecting to see Rochelle waiting for him. Instead, he finds the worried nurse pacing back and forth as she tried to find the words to tell him his girlfriend was dying. Yet he was recovering from surgery and likely wouldn't get to say goodbye, since he was bedridden. That's sad. The nurse swallowed, looking into Edward's tear-brown eyes, already feeling the bad news. You didn't forget a scalpel or anything inside me, did you? His eyes questioned her frown. No, someone poisoned your girlfriend. She's in critical condition from chloroform poison ingestion, and there's a 90% chance she won't make it back. Oh God, no. Not Monica. How did it happen? He screamed out tearfully. I didn't believe her name was Monica. It happened in the waiting room. Everything happened so fast, but the man's apprehended. Does the name Michael mean anything to you? That was Rochelle's ex-boyfriend. Yes, Rochelle. That was the woman's name. Michael poisoned Rochelle? Edward growled deep in his throat, tearing the blankets off him. What are you doing? Rochelle shouts. Take me to that bastard now, Edward demands. He's already in custody. Please relax, sir. The doctors haven't finished their diagnosis, and I'm not allowed to speak about someone else's medical record. The nurse pleads. Tears swelled in Edward's eyes, feeling so guilty for his actions. Like the nurse, he wondered how Michael even knew where to find him, and where he would have gotten poisoned. His mind moved quickly, remembering who brought him here. Did you ever file a police report? I need to file one as well. I need to look for a woman named Monica Fulton. She's the one who stabbed me. She's the one to try to have Rochelle killed. Edward strained, still in immense pain, forced to follow the nurse's advice. I'll alert security team and police immediately. Already on it. Thank you, too. One of the police guards pokes their heads in from eavesdropping and calls them new information. The officers strolled into the room, glad Edward was finally willing to create a formal report from his account. What happened here tonight, brother? Imagine like a big, bushy, white cop. What's up, my nigga? What's going on here? Small. I might change his voice next time I say it. Take out a small spread on the notebook. My girlfriend tried to kill her best friend and me. I had sex with her friend this morning and she didn't take it well. She saw us after. We thought she calmed down and we thought she was open to the idea. Then I was bleeding on the floor, being dragged out of the apartment by Rochelle. I thought I was dead for sure. I've been recalled everything. I hate to say you two got what was coming to you. This is much more normal for us than you might like to think. The officer jots it down, then leans close to Edward. But I saw you had a girlfriend. I get it, bud. We'll find who did it. Edward sulked as he thought about how his dick almost killed him. He lay in bed, contemplating his move to a new state. It seemed inevitable now. He asked the nurse to help him to Rochelle's side. If he couldn't save her, he at least thought he should be by her side. After waiting a while for a wheelchair, he was escorted to her side. promising to take her with him if she survived, promising promising he would make it right by marrying her and having kids together. Even if he had to work while she stayed home to recover, he held her hand to his cheek, sobbing the entire night as she fought for her life. Was it right for them to suffer? And I guess that's the central question in all this was, is it right for them to suffer? Is it right for someone to have to go through that pain, to go through that suffering? I think maybe. Definitely maybe. But I appreciate it. I had an amazing time doing this. And, great book. I said I would also do Friday. I finished the book already, so I don't actually know if I will do anything tomorrow. Just to be like 1,000% honest, I may not do this tomorrow. But if I do, I'm probably going to read something from Wattpad. And then next week, maybe the week after next, like once I finish writing Divine Intercession, I have to write episode 9, and then after episode 9, the season's done. I might read Divine Intercession. I might read Divine Intercession for like a week or something. But that's it. Good night. You got other things to do, I got other things to do. Peace.